Good up.
This is Channel 253.
On this episode of the Grit and Grain podcast.
Greer said I'm wrong. It's not dry hopped. Or it doesn't say anything.
They don't mention it. We're
They don't
get to the
say
bottom of
it.
this.
You Phaedra will get to the bottom of it.
That's right.
Figure
Your
it
loving
out.
husband stood up and was like, fucking suck it. Not dry hopped.
No, he knows better.
He knows better.
Channel 253 is member supported. I'm producer Doug Mackey, and I hope you will show your support by going to channel253.com/membership and join. Thank you.
Welcome to the Grit and Grain podcast, where we explore and celebrate the craft beer industry, community, and history in Tacoma, Washington, and surrounding Pacific Northwest areas. Thank you so much for hanging out. Let's get to it. Hi, everybody. Welcome to the Grit and Grain podcast, coming to you guys from Peaks and Pints in Tacoma, Washington. Woo! Yeah, you're wrong. Yeah, my name is Matt McLaren. Here as always with Ron Swarner.
Hello.
What's up, Ron?
I got pills and they're multiplying and I'm about to lose control.
Yeah, that's pretty good. God damn it. Great lead in. Bethany, how's it going
Good,
today?
great. I was trying to think of the rest of the lyrics. I can't right now. It's a summer
Something like
lovin'.
that.
You're the one that I want.
That's the
That's
one.
it.
I'm great.
Phaedra's on mic. How's it going, Phaedra?
Good.
Doug is also on mic.
Keeping it together.
I know. It is, it's New Year's. Happy 2025, y'all.
Yeah.
Hopefully you guys all enjoyed the last episode with Aaron from Three Magnets and Self-Care. Absolutely amazing what those guys are doing. And
Yeah,
we
it
said
was
it a bunch
good.
then, but do go check those guys out on Start Engine, and you can absolutely get involved in their stuff if you want to, because
It's
they're
tasty, too.
Yeah, they're gonna.
It is really
It's so
good.
tasty.
Whoa.
We didn't talk a lot about how tasty the
I know.
non-beer was.
So
It was
good.
so good.
Yeah.
Aaron popped off with all the technical stuff, and I loved it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was like, but the beer. Let's talk
gushed
about
about
it.
this
It's
a
so
little bit,
good.
It's all about the liquid, right? It's really good.
Yeah. So changing gears for this one. We're back to drinking alcohol again. Resolutions lasted one whole week.
1 hour.
1 hour, really.
15 minutes.
And we're talking about Pilsner today. So this is a 100% Pilsner episode. Thanks for joining in, Phaedra.
Yeah.
With your big dark beer.
I mean, what can I say?
What do
Sorry.
you
I'm
have?
kidding. I'm kidding.
I went outside the box.
What do you
whatever.
have?
It's totally fine.
The
what are you
Dusseldorf
drinking?
Alt.
Oh,
Bizarre.
close enough. It's probably so good.
It's so good. I'm not sad.
Well, it's
about
not
it.
big either. It's like
Yeah.
4.9, isn't it?
I didn't even notice that.
I think
part.
it's pretty low.
You're
I
close
just,
enough.
I just saw, yeah. So
What are you drinking, Bethany?
This is the red NA, and then I
Oh, yeah.
have the lumberbeard Czech Pils.
Nice.
I have that
Yeah.
also.
wait, I didn't have the red
Nice.
NA. What?
There's still some.
Okay, cool.
I've got Wander's Dog Lost Pilsner in front of me. We've we've obviously been doing this podcast for a little while now and have never really done like a dedicated Pilsner episode. And there are like a pretty big amount of like Pilsner varieties these days, and they're getting more and more popular. And like IPAs, they're all distinct and different and super trendy. And there's some that are 1,000 years old, and there are some that really just got coined within the last like decade. So we're gonna try and talk about them. And the differences between them. And then for the second half, I'm going to try not to embarrass myself and do a little blind taste test and see if I can tell you which one is which without knowing. So I'm going to try to differentiate between different versions of Pilsner without knowing what
so
they
the
are.
style.
Yeah, style.
Okay, got it.
Yep. So we sat down and wrote down like a couple of like the main, there's like a list of like main Pilsner varieties. So like everybody knows German Pils, Czech Pils, right? And there's like American Pilsner. But there's also now New Zealand Pilsner, there's Italian Pilsner, there's like what else do we?
French.
There's French Pilsner, kind of, yeah, which is like, a style that like multiple, especially local breweries have made really well.
Not Canadian though.
No Canadian. Yeah, what would that be?
Yet.
Yeah.
Not yet.
And why do we think they're trending? Why are all these different styles trending?
So that's a good question, actually. It's probably a combination of a couple of things. So like IPAs are so interesting because you can order. If somebody orders an IPA, it can mean a lot of different things, right? And like they can be different and they're fun to explore. I've been doing this for over 10 years and I still order the newest hazy IPA I see because it's so interesting and I like that they're all different. And Pilsners are starting to kind of become that. For a long time, it was like German, Czech, and a couple of other maybe regional styles or versions. But now you kind of have these like really expressive, now very regionally distinct or style distinct sub branches of Pilsner that are now becoming like just as exciting to explore as like the world of IPAs or the world of sours, for instance. I have the feeling it's something like that. And then also people are just leaning into lighter styles in general. So I think that's like, it's kind of a combination of these two things.
I think a year and a half ago was Czech Dark Lager. I think Italian Pilsner's big time this year.
Dude.
Saw a ton of them.
I love it. And that's a fun, like we talked a little bit about it before the show, but that's like one of the most interesting kind of Pilsner origins, I think. So we'll talk about Italian Pils. So we have one in front of us actually, and I'm going to crack it, in fact. So Beer Spragenza by Great Notion, who, like we've talked about before, you might have had Blueberry Muffin or all their like crazy hazy IPAs. Might not know that they are like a world-class lager producer, but they're...
for you.
Oh, it's for me?
Yeah.
Oh, thank you. I thought you were like, give me some.
Are you going to give me one?
Just be patient, yes.
Okay.
Just
Everybody
giving
waits their
myself
turn.
one.
Here, I'll get that for you.
Okay, so Great Notion.
Yeah, so Great
Grazie.
Notions. Nice, Ron. So yeah, Great Notions, Italian Pils.
There you go, right?
And Italian Pils is like,
I don't remember what this is.
it's interesting, but like the big differentiator, the thing that makes it like really interesting is that it's a dry hopped Pilsner. It's an old world Pilsner, very similar to German, but it's dry hopped. And that is something that German Pils is not, Czech Pils is not. So it's like an old world, like snappy, dry, like hop forward lager, but it's dry hopped unlike the others. But Ron and I were talking about the first actual, like, do you guys know what the first actual American example of Italian Pilsner is? Anybody in the room? No? All right. It's Tipopils by Firestone Walker.
Oh, really?
No shit.
Which has been around.
For forever. Yeah, for a long time.
Yeah.
So yeah, Matt Brindleson was the first person to make an Italian Pils, and I don't know why he would, but he called it the Slavic word for beer. Kind of throwing everybody off the trail a little bit. Yeah.
Okay.
He called it the actual Czech word for beer. So Tipopils, and I have made this mistake 100 times too, is I was like, oh, it's like this cool American version that's of like a dry hop Czech Pils. But sure as shit, he actually got the idea from the first Italian brewer to ever dry hop a Pilsner. He took old, like, Northern German beer traditions, made this fantastic Pilsner, and then he was like, well, shoot, what if I took, like, this English technique of, like, dry hopping in a cask, and then he did that with this Pilsner, and then he had this, like, really aromatic, not quite as bitter, but very hop-forward Pilsner that was Italian. Brindleson had it at a big event and then was like, this is the coolest thing I've had in forever. I'm going to go make a version of this at home. And Tipopils was born.
Right on.
That's
So-
exactly the story.
Yeah.
That boring book I was telling you about, Matt. I tried
The
to prep.
boring Pilsner book?
I tried to prep for the episode by reading a book, and I didn't get very far. But it was saying how even just the origin of Pilsners is only 150 years old. Does that track? I thought they were older than that.
1842
Yeah.
Okay.
is when
So-
Pilsner Urquell.
Well, this book was written in 1990, so yeah. So yes,
So your math checks out, Ron.
pretty closer, yeah. So I would have thought, I guess, at that point, why were Pilsners becoming a thing at that 150 years ago, or 175, whatever.
Yeah, so Ron might actually have the history.
Well,
on this
I mean, in Bohemia back then, wasn't the Czechoslovakia or Czech Republic yet. There was about 1,000 breweries, and all but 17 were making ales. So lager wasn't a thing because their equipment was shitty and it was a lot of off colors and heavy and dark and.
It's also pre-refrigeration.
Yep.
Wild.
And it's just that's what I was going to say. It's just harder to make.
Pre-refrigeration,
right?
so it's harder to make. Getting cold fermentation temperatures without digging out a giant hole or being near a cave was impossible.
Got it.
And they brewed next to the river, which is why it had very soft composition. And there was a nearby, and then Joseph Geil, right?
Yeah, I think
so. German brewer who came to Czechoslovakia, brought the yeast with him and started making Pilsner Urquell. And then 3 years later went back to Bavaria and started brewing there.
Fucking yoink.
Yeah.
It's like, I'm out.
Yeah, so the water in Pilsen, like you said, was very soft. Very like, it was very soft and very kind of neutral. So like back then, like the ales that were coming out of places like Burton-on-Trent that were like really snappy, really hard water, were like benefited from being like really hop forward because all of like the extra sulfates in the water really like punch that stuff up. So, but the soft water in places like Pilsen, the relatively soft water, made it really good for like neutral kind of grain forward beers. And so Pilsner ended up being like a really prominent style kind of born out of that. And then it like took over kind of like IPAs did when that first happened.
And another reason why is in 1938, the citizens of Pilsen rioted. They went out in the main square and they dumped 36 barrels of beer saying, this is shit.
Oh, we want pills?
And so they started looking for a new brewer and they found the guy from Bavaria, Joseph, and they brought him in and he started tweaking the equipment and he brought saws with him and
He's like, all right, just don't fucking pitchfork me.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah, hey, chill
I'll bring
out,
you
everyone.
sauce hops. Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
Hang on.
People say violence doesn't solve anything. Come on.
But sometimes, maybe. So, remind me, we talked about, we brought, I think, Gateway beers, and I brought it in Peroni that one time.
Yes.
And you said, actually, that's not an Italian Pilsner, which I
Yes.
would have assumed that's what it was.
Right.
Remind me why it's not.
So, okay, Italian Pilsner, for one thing, is a relatively new coinage. It's like the oldest example, which is actually where Brindleson got this thing, is 1996.
Okay.
That's when Birrificio.
Yep. Right, Agostini.
Augustini, that's right. Yeah, so that's like when they kind of coined that.
Okay.
Things like Birra Moretti or things like that are more like international pale lagers, more similar to like Heineken.
Okay.
But the version that would be made popular in Italy.
Yeah.
Lots of different examples of that exact style. But yeah, international pale lager, something that's like pretty inoffensive, has a bit more flavor, and can sometimes be more regionally distinct because you might use local grains and things like that to make that style of beer. But essentially, it was like what's a bit more premium and a bit more flavorful than drinking like the lightest lager that is in existence, right?
Okay.
So that's kind of what those beers were for. Stella kind of falls into that category. You know, there's a lot of them. Yeah.
Cool.
But yeah, that's the big difference. And like, I mean, when you drink something like a Moretti or something like that, or a Peroni, like, and then you try an Italian Pils, this one from Great Notion is great. The difference is pretty drastic, right? Tons of hop character, bit of bitterness, way more grain character. It's really, really different.
This is great.
Yeah, it's great.
Great notion.
Yeah, like a Pilsner that's dry hopped with noble hops. Like, why wouldn't that be amazing?
And it is.
Yeah. And so like so part of what we're trying to do is like hopefully give you guys some info on like how you might distinguish, so like regional varieties. So if you're talking about like obviously German, Czech, Italian, so starting with just those three, if we're going to talk about differences, so there's all differences in technique, but like again, this is pre-refrigeration when things like German and Czech Pils were happening. So a lot of the characteristics that are kind of innate in those two styles are different because of the climate of those two countries. So if you're in Germany making Pilsner, you're fermenting at a different temperature typically than you are in the Czech Republic making Pilsner, which was a bit colder. And that's actually why one of the most like distinctive features, and I'm going to pop this lumber beer to see if it kind of exemplifies this. But one of the most distinctive features, at least that I look for in something like a Czech Pils, is like a little bit of sulfury character. It ferments a little bit colder, sometimes by as much as like 8 or 10 degrees. And sulfur is less volatile at those lower temperatures, so you still end up with some of that in the beer. So sometimes it can come off really bad, like egginess or just straight up like deviled egg farts, and that's a bummer. But really good, really balanced examples do kind of have like a little bit of this like full-bodied sort of sulfury character, and it's because traditional versions were fermented colder because of the climate difference.
Cool. Love these little history lessons.
I know. I love it. It's like going to school.
So yeah, you have
No
it's
test.
the tiniest bit in this. But actually what you get more out of lager season, this is actually one of my favorite Czech Pils made in Washington. It's 100% link malt, and it's all heritage Pilsner malt. So good.
Fancy.
Super bready, super like, not quite
Yeah.
pie crust, but like that like sourdough, crispy, like, yeah, so good.
Doughy, yeah.
Yeah, very doughy.
And are they're a little bit sweeter and a little bit more balanced than German, right?
So not necessarily sweeter, but they do kind of come off that way. You still kind of want them well attenuated, similar to what you would get out of a German Pils, and their ABVs are pretty similar. The thing that makes them feel more full-bodied, on top of like that little bit of like sulfury character you might get, is that most Czech versions were also made using decoction mashing. So that was like a big difference. So like with a Czech Pils, and honestly, this is relatively pale for a Czech Pils. You might have them like a little bit darker than this. But in order to like regulate mash temperature, you would do decoction mashing. So you would take some of the mash out, you would boil it for a little bit, raising the temperature, and then you'd pour it back, which would raise the temperature of your mash. So different enzymes, I'm gonna get a little nerdy. Different enzymes are active at different temperatures. So you can do alpha rest, beta rest, things like that. And the idea is that you're giving these enzymes time to work on breaking down the starches so they're more accessible to yeast. And there's different enzymes in barley, and without refrigeration, without fucking thermometers even, all you really had that was a constant temperature was the temperature the water boils at. Everybody knew that didn't change.
Gotcha.
So how do I regulate, how do I
Yeah.
gauge that to my mash temp and regulate these things and make it so that I can break down as much starch into sugar as I can and dry these beers out as much as I can. And the way that a lot of Czech brewers did it was decoction mashing. There was also unmodified malt back then. So like contemporary malt, if you're a brewer nerd, you might know all this stuff, but contemporary malt is all modified, so you can get all the yeast has all the access to the sugar that it can have. With unmodified malt, you have to do a lot of extra shit to it to actually break those walls down and get the starches, to actually be able to be fermented. So that was the other part of it. So you have enzyme activity that's optimal at different temperatures, and then you also just have old school malt that wasn't quite as efficient and usable. But out of that, you get these like really, like when you're boiling grain for a little extra time, you get these like extra Maillard reactions. So like this toasty bread that's really distinct in a Czech Pils is like strictly from decoction mashing. And we've probably talked about this a little bit before, but there's this funny trend where like as malt got more modified, everybody was like, hey, you don't have to do the decoction mashing thing anymore. We fixed the malt issue and all of the enzymes can access everything. All the starches are good. You're good. And then everybody was like, well, fuck, these lagers don't taste nearly as cool as they used to. And everybody was like, okay, well, it was the whole decoction process that actually added so much of this.
The flavor
And then everybody was like, okay, well, we'll just make vessels just for decoction now. Okay, now we'll unmodify some of our malts so that it's actually necessary to do this. It was like this kind of big reel back.
Does melanoidin kind of take care of that too?
So
adding the bready flavor to it?
Yeah, so melanoidins is the compound that you would get from the Maillard reaction. So all of those like amino acids and proteins and stuff, when they get caramelized, you get melanoidin compounds. Same type of shit that makes bread crust taste and smell the way it does. Yeah. It's the exact same compound that you get when you're boiling during a decoction mash. So you get this like beautiful, light, still kind of dry, but like has this kind of bready, like caramely almost, or like a little toffee type of thing, and that's what it's from.
I love all the science.
Do you know
It's
what
so
hops
cool.
are in this one?
Probably
Just sauce. Just sauce. Yeah. Yeah, so that's like, I mean, Czech Pils too. The hop difference between something like a Czech Pils, an Italian Pils, or a German Pils can be pretty distinct, mostly because Saaz is like very identifiable, kind of as this overarching like king of noble hops, basically. Kind of grassy, kind of herbal. It's not crazy bitter. It does give you like a ton of flavor, but it's almost like it's like having like rosemary and like a bite of focaccia bread. That's like what it, it's not overarching. It's not crazy citrus. It's nothing like that. So when you have something like a German Pils, there's not a ton of hop flavor. It's actually like a lot of dry kind of pale grain flavor. And then you have hop bitterness. But if you do have hop flavor, it's usually like you can have floral and you can have a little bit of earthy, but it's usually not as like round and robust as something like a beer that's hopped 100% with Saaz, which this one is. So yeah, German Pils, like if we're moving that way, which I guess Freem is a good example. Sure. Good pick, Ron. This beer won a German Pilsner contest in Germany. Which I think Scott was still their sales rep when that happened. And it was like, I was like, you fuckers would do that.
I'm going there this weekend. I'm so excited.
Where are you going? Freem?
Freem, not Germany.
I was like, Germany?
I wish.
I was like, you're being real casual about your Europe trip. Fucking Proctor moms.
Wow, really?
So I did the tournament of Pilsners in 2019.
That's right.
And German-style Kolschen Pilsner beat Czech-style Occidental Pilsner.
Really?
Yeah.
I wonder what that was. I mean, like, German is probably a bit more ubiquitous, I think, to people. It's probably what, if you just said Pilsner to somebody, it's probably a German Pils that they picture in their brain.
Technically, it's probably Katie Johnson.
She is
with
active.
Kolschen.
Yeah. Kolschen Katie. That's what I know her as.
Yeah, see, dry, like champagne-like, not as bready at all. It's
no.
like crackery
One of my
and
favorite.
such a good beer, dude.
Seriously.
I love this beer.
Chuckanut, Breakside, Georgetown, E9s, T-Dome, all
Oh,
Germans.
yes. Yep. Yeah, T-Dome, we were just talking about T-Dome actually just won a Washington Beer Award accolade for their German Pils, which I love.
This is so good.
Yeah.
So the German Pils is more of the driest of the Pilsners, kind of?
I would say it feels the dry, although like Italian Pils kind of feels that way too. Italian Pils
Because it's based in Germany.
Yeah, it is. Yeah. It's kind of based on German, and it's funny because like I've had Italian Pilsners that it was clear that it was fermented maybe a bit colder than a typical German, and I kind of like that some Italian Pils have a little bit of the sulfuriness to it, but that's it wouldn't really be typical of the style, mostly because Augustini was basing his stuff off of a northern German Pils, one that was like very bitter and very hoppy. He was trying to replicate this very specific one. So yeah, you would have like they'd be really dry, and then.
Do you think these American examples are not dry hopped?
This one is. I wouldn't say this is.
No?
No. I don't get any dry hop character off of this at all. I did get it off of Birra Sporgenza though. You definitely get an aroma punch that is not just the grain. Like you get this kind of like
Where'd that one
herbal and like earthy.
Oh, sorry. I took it.
Oh, that's all right.
I can bring it back.
No, it's okay.
So yeah, and then like noticeably more bitter. The descriptor that is in every BJCP style guideline talking about German style Pilsner is like snappy bitterness, like this sharp like snap of this like punchy bitterness, but it's not the same as an IPA. It's much more subdued than that, usually really balanced with the grain flavor. But the aroma is almost all grain. But it's not as toasty either. So there's like there are very distinct differences, and like we've talked about like things like what Ricky does, like training her palate to kind of distinguish between these things. It like takes a while to do, but if you kind of know what to look for in all of these things, it's kind of fun to put the puzzle pieces together. Like, this is what this is supposed to taste like. Does this actually taste like that? This is what this is supposed to taste like, but it tastes like this. Is that a good thing or a bad thing? It's like the most fun thing to do with beer.
When you did your level 3, were you just doing blind taste after blind taste?
All the time.
Yeah.
My wife was very, she was getting pretty fucking sick of that. Because I would like, so actually it was funny because that's like a whole, it takes a village story. Because I would come here too. I would go to Pint Defiance. I would go to a few places and I would like, whichever bartender was there, I'd be like, hey, can you just like build me a 6-pack of like random mystery beers that are like considered to be good examples of whatever style it is, and then I would not look at it, take it home, and then make Arena like test me on them. And she would do it, which was great.
Yeah.
I know, she's so sick of it.
Crack.
Yeah. And she's like, she likes beer a bit more now for sure, but like she couldn't even like enjoy the leftovers. She's just like, I don't know how much old Rasputin I can fucking drink. I have to know what it tastes like.
It's not a bad challenge.
No, it's not. It's not. But they'll test you on
beer.
things like Widmer Hef too, man. And
Yeah.
you just have to be able to identify that. Widmer Hef was my kryptonite during that fucking test.
Was it?
Yeah, I got it wrong every time. Could not identify Widmer Hef off of sensory.
wild?
Even if I I don't know. Even if I had tried it 20 times prior, I would always get like Belgian yeasty character off of it.
But then you dropped a piece of fruit in it. You knew.
And then you did.
exactly.
Like, here's a hint.
Yeah,
Lemon.
here's a hint.
It goes with a lemon wedge. Okay, Phaedra, when
Yes.
you're at Freem, I want
Yes.
you find out if it's dry hopped or not. I want the secret because I disagree with Matt. I bet it is dry hopped.
You think
There's a little
so?
I
dissension in
think
the
it
ranks
is,
here.
but why don't you find out and report back?
I will see what I
Let's
can
see.
find
You
out.
can also
see.
go on their website because they have 5,000 words for every beer.
They do.
They probably
is
just
true.
tell you right there.
Yep.
Yeah.
When I did
I should know.
I
It's one of my
worked for
favorite
them
beers.
doing their tastings. The information was very extensive
Yes.
and
They
detailed.
do a good
and,
job.
Yeah,
Someone's
they actually
Googling
do
it
a
right
really
now.
good job. So
People
yeah.
listening are just Googling it. They're
Yeah,
like,
right.
Yeah.
But you
It's
should
not.
still
It
go
is.
there.
I know I'm gonna go there. That's not in dispute at all. But yes, I will see what I can find out about the hopping or the not dry hopping of the Pilsner.
You should also swing by Ferment when you're down there.
I will because it's just
it's
right down the road.
amazing.
I love
Drink
ferment.
12 degrees.
Yeah, I'm gonna.
Yeah.
Pills.
You're gonna
Also
be busy.
world-class Czech
Really
Pilsner.
busy.
You got a lot of places to go.
Yeah, Double Mountain for sure, and everybody's, and then I don't know. We'll see how the
Yeah.
roads are if we go out to Solera because I want to go see the view.
Yeah.
That's gonna be amazing this time of year. So yeah, I've
A
never.
few snowflakes on that mountain.
Yeah, just a few. So, anyway. Yeah. Just a few.
Ron hates liberals. I'm kidding. So anyway, we're gonna take a break.
That took a turn.
Yeah, dude.
Yeah, Ron.
Horrible turn.
I'm kidding. Ron's a snowflake too. Stick around though. When we come back, I'm gonna do a fucking blind taste test.
is gonna be awesome.
And embarrass
Right?
myself. But we'll keep talking about pilsners and why I
barley
think
wine
which one is
too?
which.
Like
Oh, we do need barley wine.
barley wine. Okay. Yeah.
Oh, yeah,
Got
good
cool
call.
This is,
things to
isn't
do.
it?
Well, yeah, we'll be right back.
Is
Stick
that
around.
barley wine?
Hi, this is Channel 253 host Eric Hanberg, and I want to thank our sponsor for this episode, the Indigenous Voices podcast from Fort Nisqually Living History Museum, located in Point Defiance Park. If you haven't heard it yet, the podcast brings forward Native voices to tell Puget Sound history. The starting point is the Puget Sound Treaty War, an armed conflict between the U.S. military, local militias, and the tribes involved in the Medicine Creek Treaty. The podcast features new dialogue between the different communities impacted by the Puget Sound Treaty War and its aftermath, which is still being felt today. The work for this podcast began 3 years ago when Fort Nisqually brought together a panel of historians to discuss the legacy of the Puget Sound Treaty War with representatives from the Muckleshoot, Nisqually, Puyallup, Steilacoom, and Squaxin Island tribes. The Indigenous Voices podcast grew out of that award-winning program and has expanded to include discussions around the evolution of Native affairs throughout U.S. history. For many listeners, me included, the podcast has been a whole new angle on one of the most important events in state history. By centering tribal voices in the telling of Puget Sound history, the tribal knowledge and expertise really comes out. The Indigenous Voices podcast is available at fortnisqually.org and wherever you get your podcasts. My thanks again to Fort Nisqually Living History Museum for sponsoring this episode.
Welcome back, everybody. Thanks for hanging out during the break. As always, a quick shout out to Doug, our wonderful producer.
Yay,
Makes us sound
Doug!
awesome every single week. And to Chris for putting us on video.
Hey, Chris.
Yeah, and if you guys haven't yet, please go check out YouTube and subscribe and comment and do all that stuff because, algorithm and shit like that. But it's a new year and we want more people to be checking out the podcast. And we want to do all kinds of fun and exciting stuff. Which, by the way, if you guys want to be more involved in that sort of thing, we also have a Patreon now. You're welcome to get more involved. And if you want to buy us a beer once a month, you can do that. But if you want to buy us, a growler or a flight or whatever, you can do that too.
A flight to Hetty Topper.
But yeah, there's all kinds of perks. There'll be extra content and some field trips planned for this year for folks who want to, get a little bit more involved. So yeah, patreon.com/Grit and Grain podcast. All right, we all have a barley wine in front of us.
We do.
What barley wine are we drinking?
3 Reisman from Reuben.
Oh my God, good choice. So good. Good choice. I'm going to take 2 sips of this because I'm going to fuck up my palate right before I do this next thing.
Okay, so you have written down all your Pilsners. We didn't really get around to all the different styles of Pilsners.
We can totally keep talking.
Covered, Czech, German, Italian. What else we got?
We didn't talk about Belgian. Because Belgian Pils does kind of exist. Bavik is like a really classic example. It's a phenomenal beer. Actually, Austin, who was on the podcast not too long ago talking about SBA loans for breweries, is like a big Bavik fan, and he kept texting me. He's like, "Dude, I don't know if you've had this, but you should absolutely try this." And I had not had it, and then he found it here, and I finally pulled a can, and it's like an incredible beer. But Monkless, actually, who, if you guys remember our Monkless episode, make all fantastic Belgian beers, and their Reverie Pils is almost like a Bavik clone. But it has, it's a Pilsner, it's filtered and everything, but it has a touch of this kind of fruity, spicy Belgian yeast character. So Belgian Pils is relatively, hopefully easy to identify. I don't know if there's one on this flight right here. So if I say that and then I can't identify it, that'll be embarrassing. There's New Zealand Pils and kind of West Coast Pils. I would say those fall in really similar categories. New Zealand Pils and West Coast Pils are pretty much the same. They're usually not European grain, but they can be. But yeah, usually American grain, so not as bready and crackery, much more neutral in grain flavor and really hop forward in kind of their expression. So West Coast Pils, as you imagine, is dry hop, filtered IPA almost. New Zealand Pils would pretty much be the exact same thing, but really focusing on obviously New Zealand hop characteristics, which are very unique regionally. It's a lot of honeydew, a lot of grapefruit, a lot of white grape sort of flavors. Really prominent in New Zealand Pils.
So if you were to go to New Zealand, though, right now, that's not what they're brewing or drinking over there. That's just what American breweries are brewing.
So it's honestly, I can't say that for sure. Australia especially has a pretty solid craft beer scene, and I know it stretches over to New Zealand as well. Some of those guys actually came over for Firestone's Invitational back in July. So there's definitely brewers out there doing awesome stuff with the hops that are grown in that area. So it's 100% possible that they are producing great Pilsners using local hops, which would just be a New Zealand Pilsner. But to my knowledge, it's mostly American brewers making Pilsners with 100% New Zealand hops.
There's only one way to find out. Join the
New
Patreon
Zealand?
and send us to New Zealand.
And send us now because it's summer there.
Totally. So
Great plug, Bethany. Nice job.
Yeah.
And French Pilsner.
So yeah, French Pilsner is another one. I actually love French Pilsner. Lucky Envelope makes one of my favorite ones ever. But there's a couple examples out there. I think Wayfinder has done one. Oh, it could be. I might be mistaken.
Yeah,
But
all I can think is they're Czechs.
Yeah, and actually terrific.
They're Italian.
Very famous Italian.
Yeah. Czech as fuck.
So yeah, French Pils is awesome and similar to Italian and German. Very
Except
pale.
it sticks your tongue down your throat when you're drinking it.
What?
I get what you're saying, but Jesus. A little more barley wine for you, Ron.
Right?
So good, though.
It is so good.
Little.
So yeah, French Pils is pretty much an Italian Pils or a German Pils. I would say it's probably typically dry hop because the biggest characteristic is the actual French hops in it, which are indigenous French hops, like Barbe Rouge is a very famous example, really red berry and red currant forward versus something like citrus or the earthy floral herbal stuff that you'll get from traditional noble hops. So if you have French Pils, it'll pretty much be the same from top to bottom, except you'll have this very unique red berry, red fruit hop characteristic.
Matt, isn't there a North German version too, as opposed to just German?
The North German version, to my understanding, the North German version is just a super aggressive, hopped, like a way bitter version. I know I cannot think of the name. It's on the tip of my tongue. There's a very famous German brewery that makes this very robust, very, very bitter, high IBU Pilsner. And it's actually what Agostini was basing his Italian Pils on, as far as I remember. Okay. But if there's any neckbeards out there who want to correct me on that, please do. Go leave me comments. That's how you get engagements, is you get shit wrong.
Yeah.
Because people want to correct you.
Like Freem being dry hopped the Pilsner.
I was not even going to bring that up.
Wow.
I was not, but
Shots.
yeah.
Greer said I'm wrong. It's not dry hopped, or it doesn't say anything.
They don't mention it.
They don't
get to
say
the bottom of this.
you Phaedra will get to the
We'll
bottom
get to the
of
bottom.
That's right.
Figure
Your
it out.
loving husband stood up and was like, fucking suck it. Not dry hopped.
it. No, he knows better.
He knows better.
What is there a commercial example of a French Pils? What are we talking
Lucky
about
envelope
here?
French Pils?
Yeah,
Oh,
so
Lucky,
Lucky,
yeah.
Lucky
Okay,
is
I
like
haven't
one
had
that
that.
yeah. And there's a few others. You'll see a few others for sure. Did Heater do one?
I can't.
Okay.
All I can think is the
Yeah.
other. Yeah.
Okay.
Lucky just did theirs not too long ago. And it took some accolades at SIP, which was really cool. So that's like the most prominent local example, though there's definitely been some others for sure. And Barber Rouge has been used, which is very like kind of now kind of famous indigenous French hop. Barber Rouge has been used in hazy IPAs for years now. Urban Family did, I think it's called World Tour IPA, where they use hops from like unusual hop growing regions, but like something from all over. But it really featured Barber Rouge like pretty heavily, and it was super good. And that was like 5 or 6 years ago. All right,
Okay.
let me try to figure this out. Okay, one's at the top, right?
Yep.
Okay.
There's little numbers on the actual
There's
board.
no color
I
distinction
know, I was just gonna
at
say
all.
that.
Yeah.
Like I get nothing from the color.
Yeah.
This sucks.
They all are the same.
Or clarity.
Taylor.
Okay.
This one's a little darker.
They're all crystal
5.
clear. So
They
I can
are.
like, I mean, like clarity is such a good example early on of like a good version. I assume Ron picked only good beers.
Yeah, because we carry shit beer. Is that what you're
I know.
saying?
So I'm going to take notes while I'm doing this. But all right. So like clarity and everything is the same, right? Like, hey Matt, what's your ass to mouth on this Pilsner?
I'm going to do this just to make sure that
Okay. So the first one, I actually don't get a ton of like European hop character, which is kind of like, which is like distinctly bready, crusty, and I don't get a ton of that. There's a little bit of fruity hop aroma, but not a ton. All right. And then bitter. I'm like doing all these noises right into the fucking mic. That's like got to be so unpleasant for people. I'm sorry.
It's either gonna
This
make
is good radio.
No, it's not.
it's either gonna make people want to drink a beer or not.
Hell no. I'm glad it's dry January right now. This is awful. So yeah, fruity character.
I'm drinking the Rogers Pils right now. Did you guys have that yet?
No, I missed
Not
that.
German.
God, I love Rogers Pills.
I'm drinking barley wine.
Well,
And like a
that's
little bit of bitterness.
You aren't anymore.
not- We're making up for the NA episode.
Okay. All right. I'm writing it down without saying it, but I'll go back to it. All right. Let me go back to my palate cleanser. Actually, maybe barley wine should be my palate cleanser between Pilsners.
Absolutely.
Clearly, that sounds like a good idea.
Okay. That's a terrible idea. This Pilsner tastes like toffee and almonds
Raisin.
and raisins.
And Christmas.
Yeah, dude.
Christmas and love. A 3 Reisman is so good.
All right. This Pilsner smells like a fucking IPA.
Oh, that's a hint.
So yeah, this is very like distinct,
Yeah.
like American hop character.
So then West Coast, probably,
Yeah.
or New Zealand.
Yeah. So my first guess is wrong, and I'm going to change it.
Did you guys make any resolutions?
Man,
Not a single one, really.
Not to do inventory during
Well, there's that.
Can you ever not do that?
No.
No, not
It's out of my
really.
control. It's the
Yeah.
accountants.
Yeah. Yeah.
man.
But the cooler looks really cool. Have you been in there? I mean, nice and clean and
It's-
organized.
Going back to one.
Yeah.
There's the least amount of beer in it ever.
Yeah.
right
I mean,
now.
but it looks really good. It's all, just what I like.
Yeah.
Okay.
It
Going
always
for
looks
3.
really good. Back there.
All right. I do actually need a palate cleanser. These are way too similar.
You want some, do you want water? What do you
No,
want?
I'm good. I'm just gonna do it with barley wine.
Did you
Yeah.
get?
We're fucking up anyway. I know it's the dumbest shit ever.
Oh, yeah. Yeah,
Takes me
Ron,
half the glass to even wash the barley wine out, and then I'm like, what's left to assess this fucking beer?
Bethany, what's your resolution?
yeah, I don't really do those.
Okay.
Yeah, not just this year. I don't ever really do them.
Get into more resolutions, maybe?
No.
Is your resolution?
No, I'm not gonna do that.
Greer and I are really gonna focus on the business this year. We've got some big goals for that that we've talked about. But
But you guys are doing really good.
yeah,
Though. I mean,
yeah. This
So more
year's
line
been
cleaning.
great.
Yeah.
This year's been great. We've basically doubled our income every year, and we're planning to do it again next year. So
That's awesome.
Yeah, gonna
Very
hire
good.
some more people and
Cool.
Yeah, focus on
Clean
focus
your
on the
lines.
biz.
Everybody, clean your
Clean your
lines.
draft lines.
Please, regularly.
Is there still
It's a
more
thing.
Funkbusters
And-
beer from E9?
I don't know if it's still around. I think
Are they-
so. We have some in our fridge, but I don't know if it's out there in the
Is it a one and
market
done?
still.
Or is
Yeah.
it in rotation?
No, I think one. Well, we do want to probably do something like that again, but with a different brewery.
It was
We'll-
delicious.
we'll,
It was very good.
Yeah. Yay.
And I think I love collaborations, especially it's like industry adjacent, right? So it's not
Right,
just
not
two
like brewery to
breweries
brewery.
or whatever. Yeah. So, and I mean, I know that you guys obviously have your brewing history or whatever, but it's still, I think it's pretty cool.
Yeah. Who do you guys think we should go with next?
Oof, I don't know.
Yeah. I don't know. We haven't decided either yet, but
Firestone Walker.
Yeah, right?
well, we haven't decided. I should say we haven't decided who we will approach yet. Not that we get to make that choice.
Go with
We're just
Firestone,
gonna
yeah.
go to Frame next and
Good
go do
call.
it.
Honored to be invited.
Yeah.
These last three suck. They're so good, but they're so similar. And I regret this already.
Yeah, I didn't
Just have more barley wine.
I wasn't thoughtful in the order of them, but
fine.
I just
The American one should be the toughest, right? Because it's probably a combination of.
So it kind of is, but like American is funny because the malt character is just so unique, right? Like, so that's the biggest difference. If you know it's a Pilsner, if it's going to be American, it's either going to be dry hopped and have this really distinct dry hop character like a West Coast or a New Zealand, or it's going to be much more subdued and not really have much hop character at all and just be mostly grain focused with a little bit of bitterness. And American grain and like continental European grain are very different in like their sensory expression. So you can usually pick out like a contemporary American Pilsner pretty easily if you understand those differences. As I say that, I might be getting it wrong right now. So we're going to fucking find out.
I love it. It's awesome.
I know. I'm like taking notes as
Is
I'm
this a
doing
fuck up story live?
Maybe it's possible. First ever live. Not really. Maybe.
Number 5 is the hardest.
Ron, did you make any new resolutions? Other than
Get
the
into
inventory?
jazz.
Get into jazz.
The dance or the music or the. Are you,
Yeah, jazz. Like jazzercise? Like what we're
No.
talking here?
yeah, I guess jazz
More
is like a dance.
More like jazz
but
hands.
Oh, okay.
Jesus Christ.
It's a good one.
Right? Yeah. And avoiding that.
Yeah. Less tray work. Oh my
Oh,
gosh.
yeah. Exactly.
All right, I'm going to go with this.
So this is just for style, right? Not for the actual.
Not for the actual beer. That's
So can
fucking
we
impossible.
but can we like make it interesting and
No.
have you try?
No. There's no fucking way. That's impossible.
Come on, I have faith in you. I
enough
believe in you,
time.
Matt.
We also don't have time. So, okay, here's what I'm going to say. Number 1 is American. What is it? Ron, you picked them. What the
No, Phaedra
Oh,
organized
I guess that's
them.
right.
Phaedra,
What was number
you
1?
don't know
remembered
the
which
order.
one you put in which hole, right?
I remember. Bazaar and Alma Mater, Lane 13. So whatever style that is.
That's American.
That would be American.
Yep.
Nice. One
Right
for
on.
one.
Number 2, I would guess, I was like going back and forth between New Zealand and West Coast because they can overlap so much, but I settled on the West Coast because I didn't get a ton of like super grapefruity or super honeydew off of it. So I went West Coast Pils for number 2.
Ding, ding, ding.
Yeah.
Those West Coast
Oh,
Bills.
Sundome.
That's awesome. Let's just face it.
I'll just take some of that as well.
Okay. So these last ones were really tough because they all overlap quite a bit. I said for number 3, German Pils. But I was...
Bam.
Okay.
Frame.
Damn.
Like
Pilsner.
magic.
Okay.
You already won.
3 for 3, baby.
Shit.
These last 2 were also really tough. So this could have been a couple of things, but I was pretty confident about number 5. So for number 4, I guessed Italian.
Jesus H. Christ. Really?
Yeah. The OG. And then for number 5,
Tipopils,
I guessed Czech Pilsner.
Sure as shit.
Fuck yeah, baby. Let's go.
Peter Allen Pills.
Nice
Dude.
work.
$900 well spent, baby.
I was gonna say, you can go home and you can tell Arena, I did it. It was worth it.
Did it.
Nice job, Matt.
Oh, man.
Nice
I'm
work. That's
so
awesome.
relieved. Holy shit.
Excellent work.
Thank you for setting that up.
Of course, that was really cool. That
Even
was-
with the barley wine
I know.
But the
palate
bar-
cleanser.
See, I kind of,
Maybe
yeah.
that was the key.
That made it interesting, Phaedra.
there you go.
That is totally the key. It's the palate cleanse
You
with
guys,
barley wine.
I found the best palate. No bread, no crackers.
That is so
Barley
awesome.
wine, baby.
Barley
I love
wine.
that.
Okay, I'm so relieved that I did that. Because I feel like that would have discredited this entire episode. All right.
Please go to our Patreon.
Well, I think what it highlights is the Cicerone program.
So, I mean, it
And-
kind of does. What I would say it actually highlights is actually how distinct each of these, like you can say Pilsner, but the style distinctions are so much so that you can, if you're trained well enough, which really doesn't take like a ton of practice,
That
you can
humility.
actually like.
I know. This is my point. Yeah. I mean, it is.
They're
truly.
distinct enough where you can actually identify them, and that means that there's actually like parameters to make them, good examples and bad examples, which is really fun. And then you can kind of see where people are bending the rules in certain ways. Bizarre is a good example. Like it's an American Pilsner, obviously, but they do interesting things to it, and you can kind of, if you have the stencil in your head of what it's supposed to be, and you have something to compare it to, putting the puzzle together is like way more fun. That's like kind of the point of that.
Also, also like very well brewed beers, so that you
sure.
can be
100%.
like,
Yeah, I mean,
so shout out.
Yeah, this is
to-
all top shelf stuff
Yeah.
for sure. Yeah.
Which also helps. Like
Yes,
it's,
yeah.
if it wasn't Freeman, Heater Allen, and
two
Firestone,
style and- yeah.
Czar and
right,
Yeah.
like all of these, it's a testament to like the brewers and their understanding of this style too.
what I
Is
was
like
thinking.
somebody who's trained well enough can totally pick them out based on this
but
work.
but
right?
my point is that the somebody who's trained well enough part of it is that not everybody is, right? Not
Maybe.
everybody- right? I mean,
Yeah.
But it's also just that like there's value in learning that stuff because it is just
sure.
fun to do,
Yeah,
and like
absolutely.
it gives you context for all of these things, and hopefully if you guys are listening to this, you're like somewhat versed, but if you're not, hopefully this is also encouraging to go out and like play around, try different ones,
the
see if you
different
can
ones.
tell the difference. And then blind test yourself and
Yeah,
see how you
resolution.
do. That's your
right, there you
resolution.
go,
Yeah,
there you
be
go.
able to
Well, and just
blind identify
yeah.
5 regional distinctions between Pilsners.
just not all Pilsners are they're not all the same, obviously. So I don't know. I think
All right,
it's cool.
Grit and Grainers. Email us at cheers@gritandgrainpodcast.com with your comments, opinions, and travel series ideas for CNN, such as searching for Italian Pilsners with Pappy Swarner. We read and drink everything we receive, and we try to respond as fast as we can, if not online, then on air. You can subscribe to Grit and Grain on YouTube, Apple Music, Spotify, Google Play, iHeartRadio, and Stitcher, and please leave us a review. Also, check us out on Channel 253 Douglas and gritandgrainpodcast.com. Be sure to follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube for episode notes, beer news, and Pilsner tasting tips, such as aroma. There's aroma, and then there's floral hops, malt, cereal, bread, grass, and spice aroma. There's the everyday automatic background drudgery, the shallow, the mundane, the inhale, exhale that you take for granted until it finally stops and you fall over in a dusty heap and the gods shrug and they go back to their knitting. And then there's the Pilsner aroma. There's being fully, exquisitely aware of how you're moving life force through your body, through your olfactory sensory neurons, and olfactory neurons like it was Basil Hayden traversing the blood-brain barrier, like cocaine being passed around at the Last Supper, like 253 naked angels wrapped around your body, squeezing you like a divine accordion made of sex, and Leonard Skinner and really strange dreams. Ooh, that smell. Can't you smell that smell? If this podcast is not what you expected, please alter expectations.
Oh my God.
Sorry, Kate, tonight's Netflix and pills. No such thing as a bad time to visit Tacoma. No such thing as too much barley wine. Woo! Tune in next Friday for more sweet chatter. Happy New Year again, everyone.
Happy New Year.
Cheers.
Thanks again for tuning in. Don't forget to follow us at Grit and Grain Podcast wherever you get your social media and catch new episodes every Friday. Cheers.
Channel 253 is member supported. I'm producer Doug Mackey, and I hope you will show your support by going to channel253.com/membership and join. Thank you. Grit and Grain is part of the Channel 253 podcast network. Check out our other shows: Nerd Farmer, Interchangeable White Ladies, Move to Tacoma, Crossing Division, Citizen Tacoma, What Say You, We Are Tacoma, Flounders B Team, and Taco Man.
This is Channel 253.
Get up.